Hey, it's me, Bruce, your boomer consumer. It's been a hot minute since I posted my last video. So a lot's been going on. I think I mentioned that I had sold my business. There's a lot of details to handle with that. There's lawyers and accountants and the government and everybody else is all involved. But I'm working through all that. And then there was some medical issues I had to address, including having carpal tunnel surgery on my left hand, and I've got a little Band-Aid here. But that kind of prevented me from being able to lift anything of any significant weight, and I've been wanting to rearrange the office and turning it completely into a full-time music room and YouTube studio. So, yeah, that stuff, as life gets in the way. But I thought what I would do, and I've been terrible about this, is answering some viewer questions, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. So here we go. Let's start with some of these questions and answers. And the first question comes from LOL-E7J. This is in reference to the Topping A90, which is just a fantastic headphone amplifier. And it wants to know, says, I just got mine, apparently the A90, and I'm using it with the DT1990 Pros. That would be, I think, the Bear Dynamic 1990 Pros headphones. How can I use my computer as a source of sound? So you've got a couple inputs in there. I believe you got both XLR and RCA. All right, you got your computer. You probably just have USB output on the 3.5 millimeter headphone out jack on there, unless you got a really sophisticated sound card that has like optical out and all that cool stuff. I would recommend this. Get a decent quality DAC. You can get them very reasonable from like Schiit Audio. The Magni is a great one. Topping makes great ones, SMSL. But you want it to also function as a preamp. So you run, let's say, a USB output of your computer into the DAC. And then because it's probably going to be a fairly short run, I just go with RCA cables from the DAC into the A90. And then you would control the volume and everything with the DAC as long as it has that preamp function. And that is what I would do. Because number one, that DAC is going to sound a whole lot better than the built-in DAC in your computer. Less noise and the clocking and jitter and all that kind of stuff. Computers are very noisy devices, generate tons of electrical noise and interference going on inside of them. So you really do want to use an external DAC. Like I said, use that as get a preamp, and then you are good to go. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, next question comes from Jesse9553. And this was, he was commenting on a review of the Bose companion speakers that I did. He wants to know how I got them to rotate. What was I using for that? This has been a hot minute, a long time since I bought that. But essentially, I got one of these little jewelry display rotating discs. And I got it off of Amazon. I think it was around 30 bucks. It's got a little light on the bottom of it and 2 speeds. Like I said, about 30 bucks. And that's what I use for that. I don't use it very often, but if I want to kind of do something really cool and make something stand out, I'll use it for that. So there you have it. Carlos Tabares-Z8J wants to know how much the Pioneer SR303 reverb amplifier costs. Well, this was a vintage thing. They're not made anymore, obviously. These were made in like there was different generations. The 303, I think, was around 1980 or so. This is a fluorescan display on it. Here's the bottom line. They're vintage. They don't make them anymore. You can still pick them up on eBay somewhere in, say, between 150 bucks to 250 bucks, depending on the condition. Some of them are going to be just for parts only. Here's the problem with those. And it's not the reverb sound or anything like that. That's a whole separate argument. The build quality, right? Pioneer cheaped out on the switches, and what will happen, eventually you'll hit that switch, and then like a little spring or whatever will break, and you'll hear go ka-ding inside the box. And that means you got to find replacement switches. Well, of course you can't. They're pure unobtainium from Pioneer, but there is an enterprising fellow on eBay that makes them. But as I understand it, you have to do some filing, you have to desolder, resolder. Unless you really want to have one of these things, just save your money. Do something else. They're just not that well made. The next question comes from Zorelski. Zorelski wants to know this about the Fluance RT85. Wants to know, does the vinyl record go directly on the acrylic platter? The answer is yes. That's the whole idea. This replaces rubber, felt, and cork. As to the sonic differences, I can't really tell you, but I can tell you this. If you use like a carbon fiber brush or something like that on the record as it's rotating to clean off dust, don't press too hard, because what will happen is actually the record will slip on the rotating acrylic. It's something I learned the hard way. Just be very, very gentle. But yes, that's what you use. Next question comes from Gina Torres, 7253, who has the Bose TV soundbar. It says, I have a blue light that runs across the front of the speaker. I can't get mine to work. Any advice? Thanks in advance. Well, the blue light indicates that, if it's flashing, indicates that it's in Bluetooth pairing mode. And so you want to take a look, consult with your manual, make sure to take it out of the pairing mode if you're using it with ARC, audio return, or eARC. All right, you want to do that. But if you can't get it to stop doing that, it's just like a solid blue light, I have no idea. I would recommend that you either contact Bose technical support, or you return it, exchange it for another soundbar. That was not my experience. Of course, I never used Bluetooth with my soundbar. All right. Okay, next question comes from Life Barrier. That's it, just Life Barrier, I guess. And in the my video, the review of the AS501, the Yamaha integrated amplifier, wants to know why I had it in a high position when he was using he's using, I think, the Polk R200 speakers, or R200s. Those drop down to 3.8. So you have, on the back of the amplifier, the integrated amp, you have a setting for 8 ohms or 4 ohms. And so I'm with you. I understand that. And, I did some research. Of course, I might have mine set to 8 ohms. But I have, as I understand it, looking at different forums and different reviews, and even have the ability to speak to a certified Yamaha repair person, that go ahead and leave it in the high position. Something about, if you put it in the lower position, is causing the amplifier to output even more power. It's already got plenty of power. That was put there as a choice for some type of certification, UL certification. That's the best answer I could get. But for everybody else, just leave it in high position. So, I guess if you want to, feel free to reach out to Yamaha. There you go. But try it either way. See what happens. Next question is from Yes George Yes. And this is in reference to the HIFIMAN HE R9 headphones. Says, when you connect bounce cable, does it show, how does the music signal flow from one side to another? I can't see any cables running from side to side. Great question. Obviously, there's some internal wiring going on in there. I've never taken them apart. I'm not sure exactly how that's handled in construction, but that certainly is typical in a lot of headphones. So apparently there is some type of wiring that you can't see that's hid away inside probably the headband somewhere. Best answer I can give you. Okay, the next is a question from Titan1394, who writes, suggest me, I can't listen to stereo music without an equalizer. Love equalizers with the lights dancing along with the beats of the music. So I think you're referring to like a spectrum analyzer type of thing in conjunction with the graphic equalizer. Okay, here's my opinion, and I'm sure there's going to be some disagree with me. And let me be clear first. You can see right behind me, I love vintage hi-fi gear. I think it's beautiful. It's very sexy, and I love having it. But that being said, back when this stuff was made, there was deficiencies in this gear, right? Deficiencies that required the use of tone controls, required the use of the high-pass filters, low-pass filters, all this stuff, because of these deficiencies. And so the graphic equalizer was a great tool to kind of flatten out the sound, etc. Modern gear is much better at reproducing music than this stuff is. All right? It doesn't really need to have all this stuff. So the use of a graphic equalizer today, I think, is more to cope with poor recordings. That's really where a graphic equalizer would come and become useful, is with poor recordings. Because the newer hi-fi gear, it does a much better job of, giving a nice flat response. Most of them, most amps don't even require tone controls anymore. But that being said, graphic equalizers are cool. They're neat to watch. The spectrum analyzer, yeah, those are really cool. But nonetheless, it is just more audio jewelry than necessary, unless you are trying to cope with a bad recording. And then, then they become really, really necessary. Hopefully that, no, you're not alone, but they're really not necessary for most part in this day and age. All right, next question comes from Pandemonium 274. Wants to know about the Lintons. And there they are back there. There's the Lintons. Want to know if I still have them, because I hadn't seen them apparently in some videos. Want to know if I still had them. Obviously, I still do. Perhaps with a different system. Well, they are not connected to the Pioneer, Vintage Pioneer, but they're connected to the Marantz PM8006. So I did not get rid of them. You'd like to know why if I did. No, these are keepers. I tell you what, for the price tag, for the money, for what you're getting a very good quality speaker that's going to last. It's going to outlast me if you take care of them. They're fine. They're better sounding speakers, of course, but you got to spend more money to get them. So yeah, they're perfectly fine. I'm keeping them. I have no plans on getting rid of them anytime soon. Next question comes from Fraser Boy 77, talking about the difference between the Klipsch RP40 or the Klipsch R41Ms versus the Klipsch R51Ms, and wants to know about the bass. What about the standard bass? 90s hip hop, for example, nothing over the top. Neither one is going to do a fantastic job at bass, all right? Neither one's going to deliver that deep sub bass that, makes the room shake or windows rattle. No, none of that. These are, bookshelf speakers designed to be space saving. And if you want really good fidelity and you want full range, then you're going to have a sub to either one of them. The 41's more so than the 51, simply because the mid bass driver in the 51 is a little bit larger, but both of them require a sub. So if you get them, make sure that you have a subwoofer to go with them if you really want the bass on there. That's all I can really say about that. Okay, Spaz Network 6982 wants to know a comparison between the Fosi Audio V3 monos and the Schiit Rekkr. I have no experience with this Schiit Rekkr. I cannot comment on how they would compare. But I can tell you this much. I think that the V3s are really wonderful and pack a lot of value into a small package. So I love them. I highly recommend them. All right, the next question comes from Frank White 2230. Wants to know about the Zen DAC, the Zen DAC 3. Is it much of an upgrade over the first Zen DAC? Also have the Zen Can. Together they're very awesome. Yeah, it is going to be a significant upgrade over the first generation, not so much the second. So it's all, it's all in the ear of the beholder, isn't it? If you're happy with the first generation Zen DAC, you're probably still fine. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, this question I think is a really good one. User-JT5 NC6CV8B. Wow. Okay. It's currently got the Marantz 6007 CD player. Should he get a more expensive player to feel an upgrade using a NAD 316B amp and like it? I only need CD playback with the 538, NAD 538B. Okay. First off, the 6007 is a very good little CD player. Nothing wrong with it. I would not spend the money on a different CD player. What I would tell you, if you want an upgrade, because the sound coming out of that CD player, right, is based on the DAC, the internal DAC in that CD player, right? And that's the job of the internal DAC. What I would recommend is use that CD player as a transport and then connect it to a good quality external DAC. And that will give you some improvement in the sound. And you can always upgrade that DAC, you know, and still keep using that 6007. So I just feel if you replace that 6007 with the 538, you're really doing a lateral type of thing. You're really not gaining much, if anything at all. Okay, and you can get a better quality DAC, a dedicated DAC for a couple $100. It'd be cheaper than actually buying another CD player. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Last question, and then we're going to be done. And this comes from Rupert the Burt. Rupert the Burt 594. This is in reference to the Marantz PM8006. Rupert writes, thanks for the review. I'm looking for a totally analog amp. Well, that's definitely totally analog. This is one of them. Also would like to hear something about the headphone out. Did you try some headphones on it? Oh, yes, absolutely. And it does a very good job. Does it match the sound quality of something like let's say the HIFIMAN, was it the HE400 or some of their dedicated headphone amps? No, but it's still very, very good. And is perfectly fine. Let me just put it that way. It's perfectly fine. So hopefully that answers your question. And I think that's going to wrap it all up. I'm going to be reviewing this in the next video, the IFI A70 Pro. And so look forward to that. And also just to let you know, I'm going to be changing the format just slightly. Not so much as a review, but more of the experience of buying, owning, and using a product and from that perspective. And that's kind of the way my videos are going to go in the future. And it's not all going to be hi-fi related. We're going to add some other products and other type of things as well. That's it. Bruce Naylor, the Boomer Consumer. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.